Office Revenge Hub welcomes you. Enjoy today's story.
I trained my replacement for 3 weeks, teaching them everything I knew. Then I outsmarted them in a way they never saw coming. My name is Riley Chen, and for 9 years I worked as the lead data analyst at Meridian Logistics, a supply chain management company in Atlanta. When I say lead analyst, I don't mean I had a fancy title with no real responsibility. I mean, I was the person who held that entire department together. Every major decision the company made went through my analysis first. Every efficiency improvement, every cost reduction, every strategic pivot started with my data. I built the analytics infrastructure from the ground up. When I started in 2013, Meridian was still using Excel spreadsheets and gut feelings to make million-dollar decisions. I implemented proper data systems. I built custom dashboards. I created predictive models that saved the company millions by optimizing routes, reducing fuel costs, and preventing delays before they happened. The company culture at Meridian was old school. The executive team had been there since the 90s. They valued loyalty, stability, and people who kept their heads down and did good work. For years, that worked for me. I wasn't someone who needed the spotlight. I just wanted to do meaningful work and be compensated fairly. My boss was the VP of Operations, a guy named Frank Delacroix. Frank was in his early 60s, planning to retire in a few years. He understood the value of what I did, even if he didn't understand the technical details. He protected my budget. He advocated for my raises. He trusted me to make decisions without constant oversight. I worked hard for Meridian, really hard. There were months where I'd work 60 or 70 hours a week, especially during peak shipping season. I'd be in the office at 6 in the morning running reports before the executive meetings. I'd stay until 8 at night troubleshooting data issues. I missed family dinners. I skipped vacations. I put my personal life on hold because I believed in what I was building. I believed that hard work and results would be rewarded. By year 7, I was making $85,000 a year. Good money, but not great for someone with my skills and experience. I'd been approached by recruiters offering more, tech companies, consulting firms, places that would pay me $120,000, $150,000 for the same work, but I stayed. Because I'd built something at Meridian, because I had institutional knowledge that made me invaluable, because I thought loyalty mattered, I was wrong. The problem started about 14 months ago. Frank announced his retirement. He'd be leaving in 6 months. The company needed to find his replacement. They promoted from within a guy named Jason Winters. Jason was 42, had been with the company for 5 years as a senior operations manager. He was ambitious, political, and very good at taking credit for other people's work. Jason and I had worked together on several projects. I'd always found him frustrating. He'd ask me to run complex analyses, then present my findings to executives as if he'd developed the insights himself. He'd use terminology he didn't understand, hoping no one would ask follow-up questions. But he was charming. Yeah, he played golf with the right people. He knew how to manage up. And when Frank retired, Jason became the new VP of Operations, my new boss. The dynamic changed immediately. Jason started questioning everything I did. He'd ask me to explain my methodologies in excruciating detail, looking for holes. He'd request additional analyses that added no value, just to keep me busy. He'd second-guess my recommendations in meetings, positioning himself as the cautious leader, reining in an overconfident analyst. I tried to adapt. I explained things more thoroughly. I provided more documentation. I triple-checked everything before presenting it, but nothing was ever good enough. 3 months after Jason took over, he called me into his office. He had that look on his face, the one managers get when they're about to deliver bad news, but want to seem sympathetic. Riley, I want to talk to you about the analytics function and where we're headed. I sat down. My stomach was already tightening. Okay, you've done great work here. Really great work. You built something impressive from nothing. But I think we need to evolve how we approach data analytics. Bring in some fresh perspectives, new methodologies. I'm always open to learning new approaches. If there's training you think I should do or conferences I should attend, I'm happy to invest in professional development. That's not quite what I mean. I think we need to bring in someone with more formal education in data science, someone with a master's degree or PhD, someone who can take us to the next level. My degree was in economics. I'd learned data analysis on the job through certifications and self-teaching. I was good at it, demonstrably good at it. But I didn't have an advanced degree in data science because the field barely existed when I started my career. Are you saying my work isn't meeting expectations? I'm saying I think we can do better. I'm hiring a new senior data scientist. They'll be taking over the lead role. You'll transition to a supporting position, helping them get up to speed on our systems. The words hit me like cold water. You're demoting me. I'm restructuring the department to better align with strategic objectives. Jason, I've been here 9 years. I built every system we use. I've delivered results consistently. What strategic objective am I not aligned with? Riley, this isn't personal. It's about positioning the company for future growth. The new hire will bring capabilities we don't currently have. What capabilities? Be specific. He didn't have an answer. He just gave me corporate speak about machine learning and advanced analytics and competitive advantage. I left his office knowing exactly what was happening. Jason wanted someone he could control, someone who owed their job to him, someone who wouldn't push back or have institutional knowledge that threatened his authority. I was too competent, too independent, too likely to notice if he made bad decisions. So he was replacing me. 2 weeks later, Jason introduced me to my replacement. Her name was Vanessa Park. She was 28, had a PhD in data science from MIT, and had worked at a tech company in San Francisco for 2 years before deciding she wanted to try something different. On paper, Vanessa was incredibly impressive. In practice, she had almost no experience with logistics, supply chain management, or the specific types of problems Meridian dealt with. She knew algorithms and programming languages. She didn't know the business. Jason told me I'd be training Vanessa for 3 weeks, teaching her our systems, our data sources, our processes. Then I'd be transitioning to a junior analyst role with a 20% pay cut, 3 weeks to transfer 9 years of knowledge, then a demotion and a massive salary cut. I could have quit right there, should have quit, but I had rent, car payments, student loans. I needed the paycheck while I figured out my next move, so I agreed to train Vanessa. The first week, I walked her through the basics, our data infrastructure, where information came from, how different systems connected, the key metrics executives cared about. I was professional, thorough, patient. Vanessa was smart, really smart. She picked up technical concepts quickly. But she struggled with context. She didn't understand why certain analyses mattered. She didn't grasp the business implications of the data. She'd ask questions like, why do we track this metric? And I'd explain that it was an early indicator of potential delays that could cost the company hundreds of thousands of dollars. She'd nod and write it down, but I could tell she didn't really get it. The second week, I started showing her the more complex models I'd built, predictive algorithms for route optimization, demand forecasting systems, in cost allocation frameworks. These were the tools that made me valuable, the things that had saved Meridian millions of dollars over the years. Vanessa took detailed notes. She asked good technical questions about the math underlying the models. But again, she missed the business context. She didn't understand when to use which model or how to interpret results in a way that would drive executive decision-making. By the end of week 2, I realized something important. Vanessa could do the technical work. She could run the models and generate reports. But she couldn't do my job. Not really. Because my job wasn't just running analyses. It was understanding the business well enough to know which questions to ask and how to translate data into actionable strategy. That's when I started to form a plan. During the 3rd week of training, and I taught Vanessa everything she needed to know to generate reports and run the existing models. I documented processes. I created step-by-step guides. I made sure she had access to all the systems, but I didn't teach her why. I didn't explain the strategic reasoning behind the analyses. I didn't share the institutional knowledge about which executives cared about what or how to position findings to drive decisions. I didn't explain the workarounds and adjustments I made for data quality issues. I gave her the tools, but not the wisdom to use them effectively. On my last day in the lead role, Jason called a department meeting. He thanked me for my years of service and for training Vanessa. He expressed confidence that the analytics function was in good hands. He announced my new role as junior analyst, effective immediately. I smiled, and I thanked him for the opportunity to contribute to Vanessa's transition. I wished her success. Then I moved to my new desk in the corner, took my 20% pay cut, and started applying to other jobs. The first few weeks after my demotion were humiliating. I went from being the person executives called directly with urgent questions to being the person who compiled basic reports for Vanessa to review. I went from setting strategy to doing data entry. My new role was essentially administrative: pull data from systems, format it according to templates, send it to Vanessa for analysis. No creativity, no strategic thinking, just mechanical tasks that could have been automated. The financial hit was brutal. 20% less salary meant I had to cut expenses immediately. I cancelled my gym membership. I stopped eating out. I started shopping at discount grocery stores. I put my student loan payments on the lowest possible plan. But worse than the financial pressure was the emotional toll. I felt worthless, like 9 years of expertise meant nothing, like I'd been discarded for someone younger and shinier with better credentials. I stopped sleeping well. I'd lie awake at night, replaying conversations with Jason, thinking about what I could have done differently. Whether I should have been more political, whether I should have gotten a graduate degree years ago. I stopped seeing friends because I was embarrassed. I didn't want to explain what had happened. I didn't want to see the pity in their eyes. I went through the motions at work. I did exactly what Vanessa asked, nothing more. I was polite but distant. Yeah, I stopped volunteering ideas or catching problems before they escalated. That went on for about 6 weeks. Then something shifted. I was sitting at my desk one afternoon doing mindless data entry when I realized something. I was choosing to be miserable. I was choosing to see myself as a victim. I was giving Jason and Vanessa power over my emotional state. I could keep doing that, or I could take control back. I stopped applying to jobs randomly and started being strategic. I updated my LinkedIn profile to highlight my actual accomplishments. Not the job title Meridian had given me, but the results I'd delivered. Millions saved, systems built, strategic insights that had driven major decisions. I reached out to my professional network, people I'd worked with over the years, former colleagues who'd left Meridian, these clients I'd partnered with on projects. I didn't ask for jobs. I just reconnected, reminded people I existed and shared what I'd been working on. I started taking online courses, not because I needed them, but because I wanted to fill the gaps in my formal credentials: machine learning, advanced statistics, cloud computing. I added certifications to my profile, and I watched what was happening at Meridian, carefully, quietly. Vanessa was struggling. I could see it. She'd generate reports that were technically accurate, but strategically meaningless. She'd run the models I'd built, but misinterpret the results. She'd present findings to executives that showed she didn't understand what they actually needed to know. The executives started noticing. In meetings, they'd ask follow-up questions Vanessa couldn't answer. They'd request additional analyses that she didn't know how to prioritize. They'd seem confused by her recommendations. Jason would jump in to smooth things over, but even he didn't understand the work well enough to fix the real problems. I could have helped, could have stepped in and saved them, but I didn't. I just kept doing my junior analyst tasks exactly as requested, nothing more. 2 months after my demotion, I got contacted by a recruiter. She was working with a competitor of Meridian's, a company called Streamline Logistics. They were looking for a head of analytics, someone who could build a data function from scratch. The conversation went well, really well. They understood what I'd built at Meridian. They valued experience over credentials, and they offered me $130,000 a year, a 50% increase over what I'd been making before the pay cut. I accepted. I gave Meridian 2 weeks' notice. Jason seemed relieved. He probably thought I was a disgruntled employee leaving and that would solve his problems. He had no idea. During my 2 weeks' notice, I documented everything I'd been doing as junior analyst. I was professional and thorough. I didn't burn any bridges. I just quietly finished my obligations. On my last day, several people who'd worked with me for years came by to say goodbye. They told me I'd be missed, that the analytics had gotten worse since the transition, that they hoped my next opportunity would be better. I thanked them and walked out. I started at Streamline Logistics the following Monday. The CEO, a woman named Patricia Morgan, gave me complete autonomy to build the analytics function however I thought best. She gave me budget to hire a team. She gave me access to executive decision-making processes. And she told me that Streamline's biggest strategic priority was winning business from their competitors, specifically from Meridian. I spent my first month at Streamline learning their systems and understanding their business. Then I started building. I implemented the same types of data infrastructure I'd built at Meridian, the same predictive models, the same optimization algorithms, but better. Because I'd learned from 9 years of experience. I knew what worked and what didn't. I knew which analyses actually drove decisions and which ones were just noise. Within 3 months, Streamline's operations were running more efficiently than they ever had. We were identifying cost savings and revenue opportunities that had been invisible before. We were making better strategic decisions because we had better data. Patricia was thrilled. She told the board that hiring me was one of the best decisions she'd made. She gave me a bonus. She asked what I needed to keep delivering results. Meanwhile, things at Meridian were falling apart. I heard through my former colleagues who stayed in touch. Vanessa was overwhelmed. She'd generate reports, but they'd be filled with errors because she didn't understand the data quality issues I'd spent years learning to navigate. She'd make recommendations that sounded sophisticated, but would actually cost the company money. Jason kept defending her, but the executives were losing patience. Operational metrics were declining, costs were up, efficiency was down, and the analytics team couldn't explain why or offer solutions. 6 months after I left, Meridian lost their biggest client, a manufacturing company that had been with them for 15 years. The client said they were switching to a competitor who could provide better service and more competitive pricing. They switched to Streamline. Patricia asked me to lead the onboarding, to build custom analytics for this new client, to show them what data-driven logistics management could really look like. I did exactly that. I built dashboards that gave them visibility they'd never had at Meridian. I created optimization models that saved them money in the first month. I provided strategic insights that helped them make better decisions about their supply chain. They were thrilled. They told Patricia this was exactly what they'd been missing at Meridian. 3 months later, 2 more Meridian clients switched to Streamline. Same story, better analytics, better insights, better service. I wasn't actively trying to poach Meridian's clients. I was just doing excellent work for Streamline. But the market noticed, and clients who were frustrated with declining service quality at Meridian started looking for alternatives. 9 months after I left, I heard that Meridian was in serious trouble. Revenue was down 15%. They'd lost 5 major clients. The board was demanding answers. Jason tried to blame Vanessa, but the executives knew the problems had started after I left. They knew Jason had forced out the person who'd been holding the analytics function together. Jason was put on a performance improvement plan. Vanessa quit and went back to a tech company. The analytics function at Meridian essentially collapsed. I heard all of this through the professional grapevine. I didn't reach out, I didn't gloat, I just kept building at Streamline. Then I got a call that surprised me. It was from the CEO of Meridian, a man named Robert Hayes. I'd met him a few times during my years there, but had never worked with him directly. Riley, I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I wanted to reach out personally because we're going through some changes at Meridian, and your name has come up repeatedly. I'm listening. I'm going to be direct. Letting you go was a mistake, a significant mistake. Jason made a bad decision and I didn't catch it until too late. Our analytics function has deteriorated substantially since you left, and I understand you've been doing excellent work at Streamline. I appreciate you saying that. I'd like to talk to you about coming back. As VP of Analytics, you'd be building and leading the entire function, full autonomy, significant budget increase, salary of $160,000 plus equity. You'd report directly to me, not to Jason. I let him sit in silence for a moment. What happened to Jason? He's no longer with the company. And you're offering me his job? A version of it, yes, focused specifically on analytics and data strategy. I thought about it, really thought about it. $160,000 was good money. Being a VP was a title upgrade. Going back as the boss of the department I used to lead would have a certain poetic justice. But I'd built something at Streamline, something I was proud of, and I wasn't interested in spending my energy fixing Meridian's problems again. Robert, I appreciate the offer, genuinely, but I'm going to stay at Streamline. Can I ask why? Because I spent 9 years building something at Meridian and watched it get dismantled because someone wanted to prove they could do better. I'm not interested in rebuilding what I already built once. I'm more interested in building something new. I understand. If you change your mind, the door is open. I thanked him and hung up. The revenge wasn't dramatic. There was no confrontation, no moment where I walked back into Meridian and told everyone I'd been right all along. The revenge was quieter than that. It was building something better somewhere else. It was watching the company that had discarded me struggle because they'd underestimated how hard my job actually was. It was having their CEO call me, begging me to come back after they'd demoted me and cut my pay. It was knowing that Vanessa, despite her impressive credentials, couldn't do what I did because she didn't have the experience and institutional knowledge that comes from years of hard work. It was proving that credentials don't replace competence, that you can't just swap out talented people for shinier resumes and expect the same results. Today, I run a team of 6 analysts at Streamline. We're the best performing logistics company in our market. We keep winning clients from competitors, including Meridian. We're growing fast and I'm building something I'm genuinely proud of. I make good money. I have work-life balance. I'm respected by my colleagues and my CEO. And I did it all without compromising my values or burning bridges. I saw Vanessa's LinkedIn profile a few months ago. She'd bounced between 2 more companies in a year. She was still struggling to find a role that fit. She had the credentials, but not the experience to back them up. I don't take pleasure in that. I actually hope she finds something that works for her, but it validated something I'd always believed, that real expertise comes from years of doing the work, not from degrees on a wall. Jason disappeared from LinkedIn entirely. I have no idea what he's doing now. And honestly, I don't care. The lesson I learned from all of this isn't about revenge. It's about knowing your worth, about understanding that companies will use you as long as you're useful, and discard you the moment someone shinier comes along. About not tying your identity to a job or a company that doesn't value you. When I was training Vanessa, I could have sabotaged her overtly. I could have taught her wrong information or withheld critical knowledge, but I didn't need to. I just needed to teach her the mechanics without the wisdom, the tools without the context, because I understood something Jason never did, that my value wasn't in the models I built or the reports I generated. It was in 9 years of experience, understanding how to apply those tools to solve real business problems. You can't transfer that in 3 weeks. You can't hire it from outside. No, you can only build it through years of showing up and doing the work. And when they tried to replace that with credentials alone, they failed. That's not revenge, that's just reality. If you've ever been betrayed at work, you're not alone. Where are you watching from right now? Drop it in the comments. Subscribe to Office Revenge Hub for more powerful workplace revenge stories.